In this week's BizLine, Vietnam enters a new era of national advancement. And innovation acceleration lead Vietnam into a new era. Hello there and welcome to the first edition of BizLine for 2025, where we'll delve into Vietnam's remarkable economic achievements and explore the nation's readiness to enter a new era of growth and prosperity. Despite global challenges, Vietnam has surpassed all 15 socio-economic development targets set by the National Assembly, achieving a GDP growth exceeding 7% higher than initial expectations. As 2025 is a milestone year for Vietnam to embark on a new era of development, the era of national rise. This edition of BizLine discusses the potential risks and opportunities that lie ahead and how innovation, creativity and acceleration can lead the nation into a new era of development. Stay tuned as we review the extraordinary accomplishments that help Vietnam remain a standout performer among the world's high-growth economies.
Vietnam achieved a GDP growth rate of 7.09% in 2024. This is the highest growth rate among the 6 largest economies in Southeast Asia. The country achieved and surpassed all 15 of its key socio-economic goals, marking 2024 as a year of remarkable economic progress.
Surpassing all of those socio-economic targets and hitting over 7% GDP growth, it's no doubt impressive. And I think it really shows that Vietnam, it's not just setting ambitious goals and talking, but it's actually doing the work and achieving them. And this really, it's not a stroke of luck. I think there's really a sense of momentum here. And this is, of course, fueled by strong investment, a booming trade sector, and continued interest from the FDI community here in Vietnam.
This achievement was realized amid numerous challenges, including global economic instability, domestic difficulties, and impacts from natural disasters. This resilience has made Vietnam even more attractive to foreign investors, with dispersed FDI in 2024 reached an all-time high of 25.35 billion USD.
Vietnam has had an incredible journey to where it is today in economic development. And as we know, because of open policies, a stable political environment, good investments in, for example, transport, logistics infrastructure, and so on, there's been a big push and a big drive for FDI to invest in Vietnam, and also the beginning of a semiconductor industry here. Vietnam has a number of trade partnerships and can look to becoming a trade hub.
So if we look at dispersed FDI, it was above $20 billion for the 3rd year consecutively. And that has helped drive not just exports in electronics, but a much broader export story around footwear, garments, semiconductors, machine components. And I think that is the fundamental success to Vietnam's strong performance in 2024.
In 2024, for the first time, state budget revenue exceeded 78.8 billion USD, while approximately 8 billion USDs in tax and fee deferrals were provided to individuals and businesses. These achievements reflect the relentless efforts of the entire political system, as well as the contributions of people and businesses throughout the year.
We invite to our studio Mr. Kinh, Executive Director and also Head of Research at UOB Group, to explore the key growth drivers propelling Vietnam into the new era of national development. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me on VTV4.
Vietnam has exceeded all 15 socio-economic development targets set by the National Assembly, and also over 7% of GDP growth higher than initial expectations. So how would you assess these remarkable results in 2024?
I think that for 2024, remarkable year for Vietnam in terms of GDP growth, because the government or National Assembly initially targeted at 6.5%. Now already exceeded that target and more at 7%. So that's a very impressive. Among the Southeast Asian economies, I think Vietnam is the fastest growing economy in this region. So that's a very impressive year, and that came after a difficult year in 2023. So all the more, it is a very remarkable year for Vietnam, and that set the stage for even better performance in 2025. For 2024, Vietnam has done very well in the two areas. More than 80% of contributions coming from private consumption, domestic spending, and also manufacturing, industrial production, manufacturing. That also related to external demand, meaning exports have done very well in 2024. About 10 months of expansion, continuous expansion in terms of exports growth. So that means that demand for Vietnamese exports have been very strong over the 2024 period. So that helps to drive production, and also workers will benefit, businesses will benefit from these activities. So as a result, 2024 turned out to be a very strong year for Vietnam.
Do you believe this success marks the beginning of a new era for development for Vietnam as envisioned by our leaders?
I think indeed, I think 2025 will start the new era for Vietnam. The reason why is that first thing, we're going to have a new president in the United States. So there will be changes in policy. And the second thing is that this deglobalization or regionalization, the momentum has been going on for some time already, and that it will accelerate. The pace will accelerate in terms of regionalization of supply chain. And Vietnam has already started the process many years back, right? So that will gather momentum. Once you gather momentum, if you are in the right place and you continue to strengthen your competitiveness, that will accelerate the process even further. And that will strengthen Vietnam's position. But of course, many other things have to be in place. For example, infrastructure, education, healthcare also must be invested. Spending must go into these areas to ensure that the workers are competitive, they're healthy enough, in terms of education and all that, must keep pace with these new developments.
Vietnam's macroeconomic performance over the past year has been characterized by stable growth. However, as we move into 2025, the country faces numerous potential challenges that could pose significant risks to its economic recovery and growth momentum.
I think the one area that continues to be a challenge is a little bit the domestic economy. So retail sales have still not got back to the level that they were at, or their growth levels that they were at prior to COVID. I think that's only a matter of time as people get more confident in the Vietnamese economic story.
Nếu như có sự thay đổi về thương mại, đặc biệt là khi một số hàng rào thuế quan được dựng lên, thì chúng ta thấy rằng nó sẽ ảnh hưởng trực tiếp đối với những hoạt động xuất nhập khẩu của Việt Nam, và từ đó nó sẽ ảnh hưởng tiếp theo một cách dây chuyền, đó là những hoạt động của những ngành chế biến chế tạo. Thứ hai là chúng ta cũng thấy rằng là nó sẽ có ảnh hưởng đến hoạt động đầu tư, đặc biệt là hoạt động đầu tư nước ngoài, và điều đó bắt buộc nền kinh tế của chúng ta sẽ phải chịu một sự áp lực cạnh tranh lớn hơn trong nguồn vốn đầu tư nước ngoài, và nó cũng sẽ ảnh hưởng đến cái tỷ giá hối đoái của đồng Việt Nam và một số những cái chỉ số khác. Như vậy chúng ta thấy rằng là nó có thể ảnh hưởng đến những một số chỉ số vĩ mô như vậy. Tuy nhiên đây là những cái mà chúng ta đang lường trước những cái rủi ro để chúng ta có những cái quyết sách như là những cái cách thức để thích ứng một cách phù hợp.
If the economic scenario outlined by the government is followed, Vietnam will face significant challenges in sustaining growth, including trade policies, global competition, and automation. Economists believe that Vietnam must shift from a development model reliant on external resources to one focused on internal development.
2024 was a year of success for Vietnam, but it also came with its share of challenges. So what do you think were the highlights, the ups and downs in the economy of Vietnam last year?
I think the semiconductors industry, electronics industries have been doing very well. I think that also has been driven by this demand for AI and other applications. So at the same time, I think Vietnam, in terms of Vietnam, the value add is much lower compared to, let's say, for example, Malaysia, where the value add is much lower. So I think that's where I think the challenge will come in. Maybe not so much of last year because the demand has been very strong, but in future, the value add will be the important thing in terms of we can still rely on labor costs. Our low labor costs are still competitive enough. Our land costs may be competitive, but we cannot continue to rely on this. We must increase our value add in order to stay ahead of other competitors, right? So I think that's where Vietnam, not so much of last year, but I think in the future years, that will be something that the government or even the companies will have to pay attention to, how to increase the value add, increase the sophistication, increase the, for example, the R&D part of the business to be in this, to stay competitive.
Now, looking ahead in 2025 and beyond, Vietnam's economy is expected to face significant challenges. Now, what long-term strategy should Vietnam adopt to navigate these challenges?
So one of the things that I think these Vietnamese companies and also the government as well, in terms of the policy that to attract companies, is to think about diversifying the market, right? So I'm very reliant on this market. What happens, something bad happens. How do I manage the risk? So one way is to expand the market. So that will be, I think, a lot of efforts from companies and also government to promote, you know, these businesses. Second thing is that we mentioned before, value add, right? So if you are low value add, labor costs become very important. Land costs become very important. Exchange rate become very important. So what are the ways? How are we going to increase our value add, right, to make it more sophisticated, you know, in terms of your product? Like, for example, in Vietnam, there's a VinFast. That is one of the ways to grow your own brand and also your value add. So we have to do a lot of work on these areas, and also to stay competitive against other countries, because many countries are also trying to get the same piece of the action. Right? For example, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, they want to do similar things as well. How do we stay ahead? So these are the areas. And then the third thing is to ensure that the infrastructure, for example, stable electricity, stable water supply, and transportation network, and all those things, those must be, government has to spend a lot of money to do this, to ensure that the productivity and competitiveness is there for Vietnamese companies and so for Vietnamese workers.
In his New Year message, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh emphasized the importance of innovation, creativity, and breakthrough solutions as critical drivers of Vietnam's growth and prosperity. By prioritizing macroeconomic stability, controlling inflation, and advancing infrastructure through flexible and proactive policies, the government has achieved remarkable progress.
Vietnam is no longer just an FDI in, export out story. It's a much broader story. You have a growing domestic economy. It will be the 10th largest consumer market by 2030. So I think when you take all of these aspects together, including the growth in tourist numbers, I feel that Vietnam is poised to springboard to its next stage of economic development.
In the near future, experts believe that Vietnam will need to continue relying on traditional growth drivers such as exports, investment, and consumption. However, to fulfill the ideas outlined in the Prime Minister's article, the country must focus on developing new growth levers.
Những cái không gian tăng trưởng mới, ví dụ như những cái không gian về số, chúng ta cần phải tăng trưởng về nền kinh tế số. Rồi bên cạnh đó những cái đòn bẩy bằng những cái dự án mà chúng ta kỳ vọng nó sẽ làm thay đổi cái nền kinh tế của chúng ta, thay đổi cái vị thế của đất nước của chúng ta. Ví dụ như là những đường sắt cao tốc, đường sắt tốc độ cao Bắc Nam, rồi những cái đường dự án lớn, ví dụ như là những cái điện nguyên tử, hoặc là những cái dự án về năng lượng, nâng cao cái chất lượng của cái cơ sở hạ tầng, chất lượng của những cái dịch vụ tiện ích, thì nó đóng góp trực tiếp cho tăng trưởng trong cái thời gian vừa qua, và nó có thể thay đổi được cái bộ mặt của nền kinh tế của chúng ta.
It's really about fueling a wave of innovation, creating high-skilled jobs, and building a dynamic digital ecosystem. So this here is precisely how Vietnam intends to move up the global value chain. By fostering a thriving tech sector, the country is developing advanced skills, cutting-edge tech, and innovative businesses that could compete globally, not just domestically.
By placing innovation at the center, Vietnam seeks to drive accelerated growth and strengthen its position in an ever-changing global landscape.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh has written an article stressing the importance of innovation, creativity, acceleration, and breakthrough to lead Vietnam steadily into the new era. So what do these concepts mean in the context of Vietnam's economic development?
So innovation and creativity, these are very important factors for the economy to move forward, to move higher level. So if we don't have that creativity or innovation, you can only rely on the traditional way of doing things or traditional products. So for innovation, creativity, many countries are trying to do that as well. For example, Singapore, also investing very heavily in innovation and creativity. The important thing is that we want to find way to improve our productivity through innovation, and also increase and also improve our products that we offer to the market. It can mean that the products can be different. It can mean that the production can be more efficient. If you, through innovation, you improve your processes to make it faster, to make it cheaper, and to make it better. This advancement in AI, and that's where we can also adopt in terms of production improvement or processes improvement through AI to reduce the error rate. So these are the important elements. So the Prime Minister is right. Very important that we need to invest in innovation, invest in creativity, part of the work and the business, and also education as well, in order to stay ahead of the competitors.
How will this transformation impact both domestic and foreign businesses in Vietnam?
So this will mean that companies, right? They are based here. Companies are coming here. They will adopt this process. And those companies that are not able to, for example, there are two companies. If one can adopt more innovative methods, more creative method to produce, this company, compared to this one that is not doing, will be more advanced, and we will see a better profit for this company, maybe better sales. So foreign companies that come in here, they'll look at the workers. Are they able to think fast? Are they able to innovate for me? So if they find that this workforce, this labor force, is able to adopt innovative method, they are more progressive, they are more creative, so companies will be attracted to this location compared to another location. So that means that education is also very important in this process, and also mindset of the people. When they look at the problem, they say that, oh, I'm not going to do anything, or I find a better way to do, better way to solve, and that will attract more businesses, foreign businesses, to come here to invest in this country.
The remarkable economic growth in 2024 has demonstrated that with sustained efforts, Vietnam is fully capable of reaching ambitious goals. These achievements not only highlight the economy's resilience and adaptability, but also provide strong momentum for Vietnam to embark on a new era of development.
Our projections are that Vietnam will continue to be the outperforming economy in ASEAN and Asia. Vietnam will continue to see double-digit trade growth. Vietnam will continue to manage its inflation challenges. We see inflation coming in at around 3%. And I think that they should have GDP growth that will be either the same as this year or slightly higher.
The new growth era demands the maintenance of high growth rates over several years, not just within a single year. Experts believe that to reach this goal, Vietnam must implement comprehensive reforms and ensure coordinated efforts across the entire economy.
Và để làm được nhiều năm như vậy thì nó cần phải có những cái nền tảng rất là quan trọng về mặt thể chế, về môi trường kinh doanh, về cơ sở hạ tầng, về nguồn nhân lực, và tất cả những cái điều này cho thấy là chúng ta cần phải có những cái nỗ lực trong dài hạn, chúng ta cần có những cái chiến lược trong dài hạn để chúng ta có thể thực sự mà có thể bước vào một kỷ nguyên mới, một cái kỷ nguyên trong đó đánh dấu một cái vị thế mới của nền kinh tế Việt Nam.
So I think that focusing on these four key areas, tech, infrastructure, sustainability, and developing the workforce, Vietnam can not only meet, but actually exceed its growth targets. So I think this is an ambitious path, but I think that Vietnam has consistently shown that ambition, combined with focused, targeted action, will consistently deliver results. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
The Vietnamese government targets a GDP growth of between 8% and 10% this year, with key economic hubs aiming for even higher goals. The growth target is not merely a figure, but a symbol of Vietnam's development ambitions and commitment to the new era. 2025 is set to be a transformative year, paving the way for sustainable growth and prosperity.
2025 is a milestone year for Vietnam to embark on a new era of development. So what are your projections for the country's economic growth this year?
I think the economic growth after the very strong year in 2024 established 2025 as a very strong base. Although I understand the Prime Minister is targeting for 8%, right? So I think it can be done. Nothing is impossible. It can be done, but provided these external challenges can be managed. For example, what are external challenges? Like, for example, trade policy. If it's a very serious one, that will affect the entire world. And when the demand comes down, I think Vietnam will be affected because Vietnam is very exposed to global trade, right? Very exposed to external demand. It can happen provided geopolitical developments, the trade policy, and also the stability in the region and China is there, right? All these challenges can be managed. So for the baseline, I think for Vietnam, 2025 will be another strong year for Vietnam.
You mentioned a lot about external factors, but internally, what can we do to really achieve this target?
Performance in 2024, a lot of it is driven by external demand, right? External trade. So in order to shoot for higher, what we should have is that internally, we should have some ways to ensure there's a baseline that we can manage. So anything added on top, that will be great. So one of the things that the government can take the lead in terms of investment in infrastructure, because that will counter any effect from the external weakness. So for example, if let's say there's a trade policy, strong trade tariff on Vietnam or other parts of the world, so all the more government spending will play a very important role to offset the impact. What the government can do is that will continue to invest in infrastructure, your electricity, your water, your education, healthcare, and transport infrastructure. The government has to take the lead. There's no choice. Many countries have done this kind of work, especially I think our nearby neighbors. For example, Malaysia, even Singapore. When times are bad, the government invests a lot in infrastructure. And we are talking about infrastructure that is a very long-term commitment, and the government has to do it, and the returns will only come in sometimes not in profits, but in, for example, people's health, education, and even innovation, things that we cannot see. So that's what I think internally the government must commit to investing more in infrastructure in order to strengthen the competitiveness in future and also in the short term to offset any negative effects if, let's say, the external factors become a very important negative factors hurting Vietnam and also the economy and its people.
Finally, what messages would you like to send to businesses, to investors, and also to the people of Vietnam as the nation embarks on a new era of development?
I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and it is a very hopeful future for everyone because Vietnam, the GDP is only about 450 billion US dollars. It's a small size for a large country. So there's a lot of room for increase for Vietnam. So for these people, there's a lot of hope in the future, and there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to make money, and also for workers and people here to earn higher wages in future. So there's a lot of room. Many countries have walked this path before. So that is the cycle that we are going through, and you are very lucky. You're a young country, and the government is very committed to supporting all these businesses and the people. So very good future for Vietnam. I think we should be patient, right? Because a lot of things cannot be achieved in a very short time. We have to be patient, and we have to have confidence, and also to be committed. And that is, I think, where Vietnam is. And many countries have shown that you have the commitment, I think you can achieve your targets. Vietnam in a very peaceful environment, and that's where we are able to, I think, achieve what we set out to achieve.
Well, once again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
As we wrap up our discussion, it's clear that Vietnam is on the brink of a transformative era. The impressive economic performance in 2024 has created a strong foundation for future growth. However, the path forward is not without its challenges, including geopolitical uncertainties and global economic fluctuations. To successfully navigate these complexities, Vietnam must prioritize sustainable development and boost its effectiveness and capitalize on its existing strength. With these strategies in place, Vietnam is well positioned to enter a new era of growth and prosperity, fulfilling the ambitions of its people and solidifying its place on the global stage. And this brings us to the end of today's BizLine. Thank you for being here with us, and we look forward to bringing you more updates in our next episodes.